Hi, I'm Rebecca Petrus at the Dry Eye Foundation, and today is the day that I finally get to start outing Regenereyes. Regenereyes is an eye drop manufacturer, and you might be tempted to think from the title of the video that it's only relevant to you if you're actually using Regenereyes eye drops. Hopefully not too many of you are, and hopefully lots more of you have never even heard of it. But the story I'm going to share in this video series is actually relevant to literally everyone suffering from dry eye disease, because this story is about the astounding way in which Regenereyes is successfully fooling doctors, good doctors, skilled doctors, leading doctors, all over the country about the most basic information about their eye drops, and they're getting away with it. And because there's so much money to be made, other companies are already learning the lesson and following in their footsteps. And this trend is going to go on, and it's going to get worse, and it's going to hurt our community in more and more ways until we patients stand up and make our voices heard and change the course. So today is the day that I get to start telling the story, which also means today is the day I get to put this great big glow-in-the-dark target on my chest, or my back, or both. This is probably not going to win me any popularity contests, right? And I'm very aware that I'm undertaking some very real risks in taking this step too. And I have no problem with that at all. And here's why. Our dry eye community is being subjected to the risk of physical harm without our knowledge or consent. This story is not just about financial exploitation. It's not just about some minor irregularities, maybe accepting a little regulatory gray area or a few known unknowns in favor of a better treatment, a more natural treatment, a biologic treatment, a treatment that doesn't have those nasty side effects that those unnatural big pharmaceutical companies' drugs have, or whatever it is that you've been told about Regenereyes and similar eye drops. Now, this is about the fact that we are being put in harm's way, seriously, and up to and including the risk of communicable disease transmission by companies that are deceiving our doctors successfully and on a grand scale about biological drugs, and they're getting away with it. It means that we're being put in harm's way without our consent. This is the part that is so objectionable to me. We all have the right to choose our risk tolerance. I can't dictate yours to you. You can't dictate mine to me. We get to choose the risk that's acceptable to us. But we can't consent to risks that we haven't been told about. And our doctors cannot tell us what they do not know. When our doctors themselves are being deceived, and they have been, even while they're trying sincerely to help us, they have been deceived by brazen, lying companies who have become very skilled at manipulating and exploiting doctors' trust and their lack of knowledge about complex drug regulations and their lack of awareness about the types of fraud that are going on. And you'd think if we're being placed at risk, at least it would be on the promise of some very real benefit that is sorely needed, as we all know. But now we're taking on all this risk for something with zero clinical evidence of benefit of any kind. And this is just the beginning. And that's why this matters to all of us, not just people using Regenereyes and not just doctors who are recommending it or selling it. Regenereyes is just one drug. This is not an anomaly. It's the vanguard of an entire trend of well-funded companies brazenly, skillfully lying their way to an appearance of legitimacy in the tool chest of dry eye treatments that our dry eye doctors choose from. So if there is one thing that I want you to understand today, it's that the medical marketplace itself is changing in ways no one has quite caught up with yet. Nobody has the tools to protect themselves against well-funded, clever companies who lie this shamelessly. Doctors don't know how biologic drugs are regulated. They end up swallowing whoppers about FDA regulatory status from companies who say it directly or indirectly through doctors that they've engaged to speak for them. Publishers of medical journals may not even realize that members of their own editorial boards have been deceived about regenerative medicine drugs. They end up inadvertently legitimizing illegally marketed drugs. In FDA speak, that's misbranded drugs, by publishing articles and running ads for unapproved drugs without even realizing it. Organizers of medical conferences, same deal. They don't yet know that regenerative medicine drugs are posing as the real thing. They certainly haven't yet developed suitable vetting standards. On the other hand, legitimate manufacturers of biologic drugs, or drugs of any kind, who follow the rules also haven't fully realized what's going on. And that's going to get interesting because, when you're big pharma and you're spending hundreds of millions of dollars in the very long, difficult, uncertain process of developing drugs that are both safe and work, at least for some people, which is the most we can hope for generally with dry eye, you're probably not going to feel terribly gracious towards companies that just decide to spend their entire budget on marketing instead of clinical trials. Just skip right over the drug development process and go straight to bottling, selling, and masquerading as the real thing. And where is the FDA in all this? Well, they are the only ones who are all caught up. They have all the knowledge. Unfortunately, they don't have the staffing to deal with it, which is why these businesses are flourishing fearlessly. So this is a new situation. No one's caught up, let alone gotten ahead of it. I hope this helps you understand why we consider this a fight so well worth fighting. Now, I have to say, this situation is an almost unbelievable mess, but it is my personal, fervent belief that this mess will bring opportunities for us and our doctors to learn to partner together better than ever. So, now you have some context about why this matters so much, why we care so deeply, why I personally care so deeply. Now it's time for a preview of what's coming in the video series. First, we're going to be talking about the company, Regenereyes, who they are, where they are, and maybe some spicy highlights of their history. Then we're going to talk about the products, Regenereyes eye drops, or ophthalmic solutions as they call them, what we know about them, and what we, and certainly our doctors, should know about them but don't. Then we're going to get into the science of Regenereyes, or the lack thereof, and whether and why that matters. Then we'll take a little sidebar on questions of safety and risk. Then we're going to talk about what specifically Regenereyes has been deceiving doctors about and why that matters. I mean, they've deceived patients too, but they've mostly done that through our doctors. Then we'll talk about how far they've gotten with this scheme and how it's actually possible for a company to do that. This is where we talk about marketing. And this part gets really fun and fascinating and a little bit scary too. Then we'll back up and talk about us, the Dry Eye Foundation, a little bit, because by then you might be getting a little bit curious about how we figured all this out. Then we'll talk about what we've been trying to do about it, because we've been pretty busy. And all along the way, I'm going to bring up some practical, simple things you personally can do to help, because together we can make a difference and change the trajectory of the story. So that's all for today. In my next video coming very soon, we're going to talk about Regenereyes LLC and Regenerative Processing Plant LLC in Palm Harbor, Florida. Your homework today is very quick and easy. Go to biologiceyedrops.org, tap on the Read menu, tap on the Frequently Asked Questions. That's the first thing in the list. It's one of those little collapsible accordion sort of things. You'll see just the questions and you can expand the ones you want. So all I ask is glance over those and see if any of them pique your interest. And by the way, if you consider our advocacy work valuable, you might just use the donate link on that site as well, or you can go to our organization's main site, which is dryeyefoundation.org. We are a very small budget organization. That's why I don't have a video editor. I just make some notes, sit down at my desk, switch on the camera, and start talking. But we do have expenses, and we really appreciate your support. So thanks, and bye for now.